Good morning. Today is the 6th of January 2013. It was 50 years ago on this very day that Victor Wasmuth in Bethells Road, Waitakere went mad, went on a shooting rampage and killed and injured people. I was a 13-year-old boy at that time, and visiting us that afternoon was Father Paul Cronin. As it happens, our next door neighbours had kennels called, the kennels were named Gorslin Kennels, and a little way back from them was a little batch house on a hill, elevated on a hill, where Victor Wasmuth lived. He would often warn the Berries, who owned the kennels, that he was getting sick and tired of the noises that came out of the kennels. He wasn't a well man, mind you, and one Sunday afternoon, the 6th of January, he had had enough. He took his gun out and started shooting. He shot the owner of the kennels. He shot customers that had come up to collect their dogs. The police were called. The police came and shut the street off, surrounded the house. 2 policemen tried to go and disarm Wasmuth, but he was a crack shot and they were killed. There is a story today in Metro magazine, which is an Auckland publication. I'm not sure that it was printed the right way around on your screen, but it's called Mad Vic. Mad Vic. Anybody that's interested in the story can go and buy Metro magazine anywhere in New Zealand and have a good read of it. Buried away in that story is a very small sentence about Father Cronin, who was visiting us next door to the tragedy. The police came and told him what was happening. The gunman was out in the open, no one could see where he was, but there were dead and dying on the streets. Monsignor Cronin, without any thought for his own safety, put on his stole and went and anointed the dead and dying in full view of the gunman. As a 13-year-old, that had a great impression on me and on my brothers and sisters who were there at the time. Mons Cronin had been looking after our family really, because I'm one of 11 children, as I've mentioned before. One died at just after birth, so there were 10 living kids really, and we're all still alive now actually. But the fact that we have come through life to the stage we're at now is we attribute to Monsignor Paul Cronin because of his dedication to his Catholic priesthood actually. On that day, I saw the real Monsignor Paul Cronin. He put his stole on and he went into the battlefield despite what might happen to him. He could quite easily have been killed, and he anointed the sick and the dying. This was the character of the man. As Bishop Patrick Dunn called him on an occasion of celebration for Mons Cronin, he said he was all priest. And I can attest to that, and so can my brothers and sisters. To have a man like Monsignor Cronin as a role model, in my own case, throughout my childhood, and then into my adulthood, was something I have come to realise that was a very great grace. And to have him mentoring us in this Eucharistic Convention that is now an annual event has been another amazing blessing. The convention would not have survived its early passage through existence without the guiding hand of Monsignor Cronin at the helm. There are many, many issues and challenges that this event has had through its now 20 years of existence. And all I can say is that we owe Monsignor Paul Cronin a huge debt. He was a very special man, and one that never said things or did things that sat outside what he believed in. I challenged him on a point one day and he said to me, "John, I know what I know." And that was it. And what he knew was that salvation is available to all of us. We have to search and find it ourselves. He knew where it was for him. He lived what it was for him. And he transmitted what it was for him to anybody that ever met him. And that transmission came through this Eucharistic Convention in a very, very special way. I am sitting here now beginning the planning for our 2013 event, which will be massive, I promise you that. It's not an event where we're trying to change the church, as some people have thought. It's an event where we are serving the church, we are serving the parishes of the Diocese of Auckland, and we are serving those parishes under the authority of our Bishop Patrick Dunn. We are lay people serving the church, and Monsignor Cronin knew what needed to be done, how the event needed to be structured to allow the faithful to participate in their faith in a very special way, as we do at the Eucharistic Convention. So reading this article in Metro today, it's brought back a whole lot of memories for me, but the main memory is that on the day the news items carried the news, it was all over television, it was all over the newspapers, and the aftermath that carried on the week after with the funerals of the people that were killed and so forth and so on, those were all over the newspapers and all over the television set. But there was the untold story that was never told until this Metro article, never told publicly until this Metro article, and although I have spoken about it before, and that is the absolute heroism of Father Paul Cronin, who without any thought for himself gave his Catholic priesthood to the dead and dying on the streets of Auckland. That is the legacy of this Eucharistic Convention. Monsignor Cronin is still an integral part of this convention, and I can promise you that in April this year his presence will be very notable at our special event. As we plan this event, I'm in my office now, beginning that planning in a very serious way. We will have something extraordinary, and I invite you all to consider coming to the Eucharistic Convention. There will be much more promotional material available in the coming weeks ahead. Keep an eye on New Zealand Catholic, look in your parish newsletters. If you haven't been before, certainly consider coming, because it is a gift from God to the Diocese of the Roman Catholic Parish of Auckland and New Zealand. Our Bishop loves it, supports it wholeheartedly, and wants it to continue. And myself, my wife Beth, Bill Moore, our PR coordinator, and the hundreds, literally hundreds of volunteers who put this event together are ready to go for it again. We hope to see you in April. We look forward to having you with us. Until we get there, consider coming yourself, consider telling your friends and relatives. Keep an eye on our website, eucharist.co.nz, eucharist.co.nz. Follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and we'll see you there in April. There is a sequel to this story that I think is well worth a mention, so I've decided to just run a small video clip to tell you about this little snippet of information. As I was continuing to read the story in Metro, I noticed that the model on the front page, her name is Esther Cronin. No relation to the Mons, but Esther Cronin. Coincidence? I don't think so. An interesting aside though. But after Victor Wasmuth, the man who who did the shooting had been through the courts. He was sentenced to a psychiatric institution because he really wasn't well. In that institution, Mons Cronin decided to go and visit Victor and counsel him. Such is the nature of the man, the Catholic priest, Monsignor Paul Cronin. His concern, no matter who he was dealing with during his life as a Catholic priest, his concern was with the person's immortal soul. How were they looking at life themselves, and how were they going to be when God called them back home and they had to meet their Creator? And his concern was that they understood what life was about and came to find Jesus Christ in the way that they were able to do so. And I'm sure that that was his intention of going to see Victor, because Victor was a lonely, lonely man. So that would have been a very touching meeting, and it speaks volumes about the man that Monsignor Cronin was. And it's certainly been my privilege to have known him, and I know that a lot of other people understand the privilege involved in knowing Monsignor Paul Cronin as well. So I just wanted to share that with you because it's relevant to the first part of the story. It completes the first part of the story. Monsignor Cronin was priest and all priest, and thank God I thank God that I've had the privilege of knowing him. So that's basically enough from me. We look forward to seeing you in April at our Eucharistic Convention, the 5th to 7th of April 2013. Please think about coming. We'd love to see you there. Thank you.